PIADINA, the Italian flatbread you are going to love. Here I have all of my ingredients. Very simple ingredients, and one thing I love about this flatbread is that it is not a yeasted bread. So it can be made about a half an hour in advance. It's not something that requires a lot of patience, a lot of planning. For example, when I make sourdough, I have to plan basically a day in advance. So this flatbread, there's just a teeny bit of baking soda that acts as a leavening agent. Otherwise, we'll knead it, we'll wait a half an hour, and then start rolling out the flatbreads. So I have flour, salt, baking soda, olive oil, and water. A little extra flour just for flouring the surface if needed. And the exact amounts are listed in the description below. So I'm going to get my bowl and let's get started. First, I'm going to start by adding my dry ingredients to the bowl. That's flour, salt, and a little bit of baking soda. Now I'll combine these just to make sure that the salt and baking soda are mixed in to the flour before adding my wet ingredients. This is one of the most ancient flatbread recipes, and traditionally lard is used in place of olive oil. But I like olive oil. It's typically a healthier fat. It's easily available in the United States, and it is also vegetarian or vegan. So I'm going to add in my olive oil. And I'll start with about half of this water, and I'll see how much more I need. Based on the type of flour or even the humidity in the air, I could need more or less water. So I'll start with about half of it and give this all a good mix. This dough is actually less like a bread dough and more like a pasta dough because you're going to knead it and then let it rest for a little while and then roll it out. So you can think of it similarly to if you were making a pasta dough. Piadina is one of the most common street foods in Italy. So if you're walking around especially in the Emilia-Romagna area of Italy, you will find so many different variations of these sandwiches, and different restaurants and different street vendors will have their own variation. So there are endless options for the fillings. I'm going to just feel the dough. There's plenty of moisture in here. I don't need to add any more water. Now what I'm going to do is just flour my countertop and put my dough on the work surface. And now I'll knead this for probably about 4 to 5 minutes. Once it becomes smooth and elastic, you'll know that it's ready to give it a rest. Again, very similar to a pasta dough, you're just going to use the palm of your hand, push it out, and then kind of tuck it back, rotate, and repeat. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. Now, what I'm going to do is portion this into 4 pieces and then roll them each into a ball and let them rest for about a half an hour. I'll try to get these about as even as I can. All right, so I have 4 pieces, and then what I'm going to do is just roll it into a ball. I'm going to place these on a baking sheet that I have and just cover it with a kitchen towel. You can certainly use plastic wrap, but whatever you do, just make sure that when you are not working with these, that they are covered so they don't dry out or form like a crust on top of the dough. So we'll give this a half an hour and you'll see quite a difference in the texture of the dough once it has rested and hydrated over the next half an hour. And then we'll roll them out and time to make lunch. It has been about 30 minutes and it's time to start rolling out our piadina. There are 2 reasons why we let this rest for a half an hour. It's so the dough can hydrate and the flour can absorb all of that oil and water, but also so that the gluten can relax after it's been kneaded. If it's not properly rusted, the dough will just shrink back. It won't roll out nicely and form that nice piadina. But what I'm going to do is work with just one at a time and then keep the remaining covered. So I'll take one here. And again, just going to lightly flour the surface. And using my rolling pin, I'm going to start from the center and just push out, rotate, and repeat. I don't care what you put inside of these. My only requirement is that you enjoy them while fresh and while warm, because that's when they are absolutely the best. Speaking of, I've seen plenty of savory variations, but I've also seen people do sweet variations of the piadina as well, like a Nutella and fruit filling, sort of like a crepe. So the possibilities are really endless. All right, we have all four. Time to clean off my workspace and get my cast iron skillet heated up. Here I have a cast iron skillet that is heating up. Cast iron is perfect for this because it heats up nicely and there's an even distribution of heat. I have it on, I'm going to start with it on high just until it gets nice and hot, and then once I'm ready to cook them, I'll turn it down to 4, so medium, high heat. Actually, a little tip I'm going to show you. If you aren't sure if it's hot enough, and because we're not adding any oil, like I said, you can always do a few droplets of water and they should start to dance a little bit, and they are. So this is definitely ready. I'll turn this down to 4 because I don't want them to burn on each side. You want it to be hot enough to cook fast, otherwise the dough will dry out. So you want to cook them about 1 to 2 minutes on each side. So you definitely want to make sure it is hot enough before you get started. And again, I'm going to take one out and keep the rest covered. All right, and time to flip. We're going to just move the cooked one to the other side of the baking tray and cover it with the kitchen towel to keep it warm. Perfectly done. What I like to do is fold these in half while they're still warm. It prevents them from cracking if you fold them in half once they've cooled down. So I'm going to fill this with a bunch of delicious things in a few minutes. So I'm going to fold it in half now. Now I'm just going to finish cooking these and then time to assemble my lunch.